Welcome back to another Tactical Tuesday. This week we're covering the leadership scale of power. So your standard leadership scale goes from 6-1 to a 10-3. So that scale, unfortunately, isn't just a linear scale. And that just isn't, it's going to go up by one, up by one, up by one. No, the strength of the leadership varies greatly with what they can do, how they can affect the game, their impact on the enemy's movement, and a whole variety of other examples. We're going to kind of break it down. Hopefully it'll be helpful for you, and hopefully it will be able to change some of those losses into wins. And essentially the take-home lesson, what we're going to have today is the better the leader, the more you've got to kick ass with him. So you've got to put him up in the front. You've got to put the pressure on your enemy. You got a 9-2. He's got to be breaking somebody every single turn. Every single turn, he's got to be putting the pressure on. Whether he's moving to another position to destroy someone, or he's just destroying whoever's in front of him. All right? So that's kind of the concept of today's session. And so we go into some depth and leave any questions or comments at the end. Remember, this is a generalization of the leadership scale of power, and nationality distinctions will vary that scale of power depending on the leadership's capabilities and the nationality's capabilities. So keep both in mind, and hopefully you can be able to mesh those concepts together and have more success in your ASL games. Thanks a lot. Enjoy. We got the Italian setup here. So look at the American setup and tell me what you see. This guy's got a medium just right there. Tell me what you see that might.
I have a setup question, Stu.
Okay.
The tanks cannot stack on each other on setup off the board. Is that correct?
That is not defined.
Oh.
That is not defined in starter kit rules. A lot of guys say, well, just use the ASL offboard setup. Yeah, it's defined in ASL, but it's really not so defined in SK. So I have no answer because I don't think there is an answer.
Okay.
It just says set up your units off board and then enter them.
Okay, and in ASL, I cannot stack them
correct
off board. Okay, all right, that's good enough.
Well,
good enough.
I don't think you can. Yeah, you can't overstack units when they're off board.
Okay.
And in SK, it really doesn't go into the 2 or 3 sentences, 4 or 5 more sentences detail of off-board movement and off-board setup. I don't know why, because honestly, I think like practically every single game has guys coming off board. Oddly enough, I mean, the first scenario has guys coming off board. The game S5, I think that Craig was playing last night, has got guys coming off board. I mean, every single scenario has got guys coming off board. And I've seen some guys stack a whole bunch of infantry and bring them on. And I'm not going to say nothing because to me, what I read from the rules, it really doesn't prohibit that. And so just play it. I mean, to hell with it. Just play it, But in ASL, you can like move off board and it's got rules for moving every off board. Consider you butt up another board and everything's open ground and you can move freely, and then you could come on like later on. SK, usually when people like load up their guys, they just kind of bring them on right where they, I'm coming right here, so I'm just going to put my guy right here. But sometimes something might happen. You might bring this guy here. He might get blown up by an AT gun. It's like, oh, the hell with that. I don't want to come on. And then ASL has rules where you could just move this guy over here and bring him on over here. So you kind of have to have off-board rules for having that advantage. SK really doesn't go into it too much, at least what I can read. If you guys know something more, then please share, because I don't have an answer. I just don't have an answer. I mean, so if you want to stack them, if you guys are good with stacking them, I mean, go for it. And if you guys says no, let's just use the ASL rule, that's fine. But I always, again, you guys know this, I always take SK from an SK perspective versus I'm going to apply my ASL rule to this because it's not really described. I mean, that's the, I don't even, that's not even the easy way out, because some guys don't own the ASL rulebook, and they shouldn't. And that's my philosophy. They should not have to own the ASL rulebook to explain the SK rules. And so again, I don't rely. I know what the ASL rule is, but the SK rule doesn't go into it. And sometimes it's designed that way, and sometimes it's not. And I don't know what their design decisions were behind that. So that's, and like I said, that's all I say. I can't say you're doing it wrong or doing it right. That's all there's to it. It's just, one of those holes, I guess you could say, in the rules, I guess. So, what do you guys notice on this particular setup for the Americans? Should stick out to you.
They're going to get surrounded.
Nah, that's not really a concern.
Okay.
Their leaders are kind of all stacked together. Like if I would have separated the leaders a little bit more.
Okay.
For morale purposes and stuff.
Yeah.
10-3's back quite a bit.
This is the key. Who said that? MG?
MGT.
MGT. Yeah. 10-3. We're going to go over why this is a complete debacle that we got going on here. I'm not this guy, what's his purpose in life, MGT?
To kill everything in its way.
To kill everything, and he will. I don't care if you put a partisan half squad with this guy, a 1-5 shot out in the open. And I think somebody here played with a game. He actually got 2 -5 shots. I don't know. Maybe it was Bill, some scholar guys playing some ASL. He got 2 -5 shots because he had a -3 leader. And it was like, squad first fire, and then he subscript first fire. -5. So if you're rolling on the 2 chart, a 6 will kill. A 6 will kill on the 2 chart with a -5 modifier. This guy, this leader, right here, and this is where I want you guys to we're going to go in the description of leaders, and let's go with, I'm going to clone. Now let me pull some, and I'm sure MGT will know this. Yes, so we got the hierarchy of leaders. I'm not going to pull the 6-0, even the 6-1, even though I love them. Okay. Each leader is not created equal, and each leader does not have the same role. Right? What are the powers of leaders? Moving units, directing shots, rally, and adding his modifier. Pretty much, right? I mean, generally, those are the 4 things leaders do, right? And they all do things at different levels. Obviously, everyone here can rally. Who can rally the best? The one with the best modifier. These guys are very good at rallying because they're going to be low priority targets for the enemy. So you can move these and you know what? I'm going to put the 6+1. Even this guy, because the Americans don't mind this guy running around rallying units because they already have 8 morale. They already have the bonus morale and the terrain. I'm just going to put a broken unit right here. And the terrain, if you're in terrain, which most people are, and especially in SK, there's lots of terrain around. This guy is a perfectly good leader to rallying this unit in the rally phase, right? You get the +1 terrain, right? Offsets his +1 leadership modifier, or the -1 for the terrain offsets the +1 there. So what that does is this guy can rally here, and you might have another unit, you might have another unit over here even right next to him, right next to him, self-rally this guy, and this guy can rally. So now you could have 2 units up. Extreme value with the 6+1 leader when you're dealing with units that have even 7 morale, even 6 morale. If they're in cover, all it does is give those guys, essentially negates the self-rally penalty for the guys. So they just have to roll the morale check. So he does have value. He looks like crap, but he does have value, right? If that's a 6 morale unit, he'd need to roll 6 instead of a 5. No, he'd roll 6 instead of a 5. So he can still, essentially what it does, it allows another multi-man counter to, quote, self-rally. And that's a huge bonus. And plus he gets to rally outside of your turn, right? That's the other bonus. So 6+1 is still a value. Now, So rally, we know these other guys obviously add more dice roll modifiers to rally. You know, break these guys. So now let's go with movement. They all have equivalent. They all are equivalent in movement. They're all exactly the same. The 6+1 and the 10-3 will move these guys the same distance. Right? Same distance. Okay, so the foot race, they both tie. They're both equivalent units. So in mobility, and Basil's still screwed up. I think I'm on a different version. So mobility, they're all equivalent. Okay, and then the rally, we covered the rally. What's the other one? Firepower, right? Attacks. So obviously 10-3 is good for attacks. Now you can set rolls for particular units. 10-3, I think, like you gentlemen were saying. Oh, not back there. They say they kind of had the leaders back here, sort of more like if something breaks, they can kind of maybe rally back to a leader. And we're not going to go over this particular scenario because I think this scenario is actually rather deep in what you need to look for. I'm toiling with it myself and trying to figure out exactly how to do, considering how the Americans are performing. It's like, okay, what do they really need to do? But 8-1s, you know, up with this unit here. If this unit takes, let me just put it with him. Oh, let me just put this stack right here. So this 8-1 with this unit directing him in combat, not bad, right? He's not bad. Tell me about the vulnerability of this stack here compared to this leader directing the fire. Tell me about the vulnerability of that particular stack. Okay, if the 7-0 were directing that thing, we're all the 7-0 is doing there is avoiding the cowering and allowing the machine gun to take another shot if they happen to roll doubles. You know, hopefully they'll roll a 2 or a 4. You know, that's the only thing to avoid the cowering. So if you're rolling a 2, especially with American firepower, that's going to be, you know, it's going to be a shitload of firepower anyway. So it's not really an issue. But the 4, it might be if it's long range, halved, or whatever. But so the 7-0 leader is pretty much just negating the cowering aspect. If the 7-0 breaks, what happens to the other units in the stack?
You have to take a leader lost task check.
Do they?
They won't because it's the same morale.
Right.
Oh, same morale. You're
Right, same morale. So the 7-0, I like the 7-0 sometimes better than the 8-0. Because of that, these guys, well, in this case, these 6-6-7s are not going to have that problem. If they were the normal 6-6-6s, the problem still exists. So, but in this specific case, you don't have to worry about that per se because of the morale difference or the exact level of morale that they have with them. Now, put the 8-1 in there. What he does, he gives you a little bit more oomph with his -1 modifier, but if he fails a morale check, then you do exactly what Craig suggests and take the leader lost task check. And if you should happen to die, you take the leader lost morale check. So, and then compare the 8-1. So the vulnerability of this one is slightly more vulnerable. Actually, this stack is slightly more vulnerable to damage and, you know, the combat effects than the 7-0 if the 7-0 were leading that stack. The offensive capability is slightly reduced, but in terms of defensive and cohesiveness, he's better off with the 7-0 than the 8-1 because if he's going to get if he's defending a specific spot and he's going to be taking firepower from a number of shots, maybe like a Panzer IV, 8 firepower machine gun, something like that, he's going to be taking morale checks. This 8 morale unit is going to break amongst one of 3 rolls. The most likely he's going to be taking at least 1 morale check, and it's possible that he could break. There's an okay chance that he could break. If that happens, these guys might be pinned, and that might spell you know, bring issues with you. You know, I'm not like difference whether the 9-1's leading that troop. Well, his morale. The only difference is his morale. And so the leader itself, not the squads, the leader itself is much stronger in defending against enemy attacks. His offensive capability is exactly the same as the 8-1 leader. Exactly the same offensively, but defensively, the 9-mon is far stronger because of that 9 morale. He bumps it up to the next level. It's like he's adding 1 to the building. And that's what we're getting into, is sort of modifiers and how you could perceive modifiers and how they apply to your stack. So a 9 morale unit in an 8 morale unit in a wooden building, or an 9 morale unit in a wooden building, is very similar to an 8 morale unit in a stone building, because you're going to have a +3 modifier on the attack. Most likely it will reduce the result of any attack by 1. Sometimes it doesn't, because, you know, the IFT doubles up. But the 9-1, because on this stack, it will reduce the TEM is +2. But if they're both in the same terrain, this guy, obviously, by virtue of having a higher morale, has a much higher defensive capability, and it has a higher offensive capability because he's going to be unbroken more often than the 8-1. And that's why you'll see some guys put 8-1s, not necessarily in this scenario, mind you, but I'm just saying sometimes the 8-1 might be good with like a machine gun a little bit behind the line, maybe a little bit more range. He doesn't see all the guys. He sees a couple guys down here. You know, there might be some Italians down here. You know, he's good for picking these guys off, but is he good when we got a stack of guys like right here or right here? He's going to be exposed to much more firepower, and more obviously anybody's going to be more exposed for more firepower, is more likely to break. But because the 8-1 inherently has, you know, lower morale, he's much more susceptible. And because he's a leader, anytime you break leaders, you're ahead of the game as the opponent. If you break their leader, even the 7-0, every single one of those guys helps from any number of the strengths that we know leaders have: movement, rally, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So 8-1s can sometimes, you'll see a lot of players kind of position their 8-1s just behind the front line, or maybe off to the flanks, and maybe not expose them to so much fire. And these are opportunistic fires. 9-1, this guy can be closer to the front because he's gonna be taking some more damage, but he can withstand it. He's okay with that. Okay, so your 8-1 might be the medic per se, because he might be able to get those units up a lot faster depending on the scenario, right? If you need units going back in there and pounding ass, 8-1 setting up behind the lines, sort of like this player here had. If he expects these guys to break, you know, if they get him over to him, then the 8-1 is doing his job. That's why he has it set up for. You know, and he could rally those units very effectively. You know, we've talked about -1 leaders in the rally. So now 9-2. How's the 9-2 differ from the 9-1? Well, nothing in morale, right? Nothing in morale. And this is where the crux of my discussion is going to be to hold on today, is the 9-2 and these 3 leaders here. You don't see them very often. The 9-2 you see every once in a while. So we're going to go into the strengths of these units, not simply because of just what their numbers are, but what they bring to the table. So the 9-1 here, if you fire in a 12 chart, let's say you fire in a 12 chart. Okay. I want you guys to see this 12 chart firing on these guys, not as a 12-1, but for every negative modifier that you have on the attack. Okay. Depending on what column you're at on the infantry fire table. Now get your infantry fire tables out, or click on the Valza one, pop it up, bring it up. You need to visualize this. You need to pop that IFT up. Where's mine? Well, this is a giant ass one. Holy smokes. So bring that IFT up right there. So the 9-1 leader, 12 firepower, -1. You're going to subtract 1 from the die roll, obviously, right? For all intents and purposes, for most of the columns, for everything under 12, it's not going to really change the effect per se. It will change it overall. Yes, if I roll snake eyes at a slightly better chart, then it's going to kill things. But overall, what it does is change the firepower of the column. So a 12 firepower attack with a -1 modifier, you might think of, many players think of, okay, that's going to be like a 16 even, because you're reducing the dice roll by 1. And so if you roll a 7 on the 12 chart, it's reduced to a 2. Well, lo and behold, if you roll a 7 on the 16 chart, it is a 2 morale check. And you can just go down the chart the whole way until you get to a 4. Where if you roll a 4 on the 16, it's just a K. Well, same thing. If you roll a 4 on the 12, it's a K3. If you roll a 4 on the 16, it's a K3. So they're identical. So your -1 leaders, count them as either 4 firepower or 6 firepower. And the reason why I say 6 firepower is because as you go up in the higher charts, you jump up like from 24 to 30. If you have a -1 leader on the 24 chart, it's a 6 firepower increase because the -1 modifier doesn't care the exact number of firepower you have. Whereas if you're using a squad, you actually need a 6 firepower squad to get up there. And very few nationalities have squads of that capability. So most of the time, as you see that on the chart, the lower levels, the -1 leader essentially is either 1 firepower, 2, or 4. 1, 2, or 4 is the average modifier that has. Now, take the next higher leader, -2. We put that guy on our 12 chart. Okay, or 8 chart. If you like 8 chart, we can go to 8 chart. We could actually do we could do some Italians. Let me do the Italians just to change it up a little bit. We battle harden him one more time. All right. We're going to take this Italian 9-2 with 2 squads. 6 firepower. Garbage, right? Garbage Italian squads, 3, 4, 6s. 6 by themselves. So that's going to need, if you didn't have the leader, obviously, if he's firing across the street, it's going to be a 6 + 2. So he would need to roll a 5. With a -2 leader, it would essentially be even, 6 even. So he needs to go from a 5 to a 7. So obviously, the effect is going to be held, again, offensively. That's what you're looking at. So a 5 is a 27% chance of affecting the unit. You know, getting you have to roll a 5 on the 6 chart for that +2 to get a no morale check. You're gonna roll at 27.8% of the time. I say 28%. With the -2 leader, that doubles that effectiveness. So again, like I was saying, if that's 6 firepower, you're going to punch that up to 12. So it's essentially that 6 firepower is essentially the equivalent of a 12 firepower chart upon that leader. Obviously, there's a little bit of variation, but conceptually, in terms of modifiers, that's what we're looking at. So the 9-2 leader, not only does he change the charts, essentially he will essentially in this part, he doubles the firepower of the units. He just doesn't add a 1 column over, essentially 2 firepower. For these Italian units, he will double that firepower. For the American squads across the street, with the 12 firepower, he almost doubles the firepower. He sends it to 12 to 20. But the effect on the chart is equivalent to the Italian ones. So in terms of having these leaders, unless they're behind or they jumped out of a truck or got blown up or they're coming in reinforcements turn later, although these units can rally units fairly effectively, let's say we have like 2 broken units right here. Let's say we have 1 broken unit. I'm going to do a comparison. There's going to be 1 and 2. And we're going to clone this guy. Okay. So we've got the fight boiling. And this applies to this 10-3 back here as well. And you'll see the big difference. So we got a fight boiling. The Americans, let's say the Americans are here. And we got a fight boiling. And where's the -2? Oh, here it is. So let's say he's in this location here. Neither of these, for the sake of just argument, neither of these guys are DM'd. We could either be here or we could be rallying units. Okay. Yes. Obviously situationally wise, it depends on what exactly the scenario portrays, but simplicity wise, if we need firepower and we need to do damage this turn or during this series of turns, then would you want this leader rallying troops rallying this unit or being in this location here? And I think the answer might be obvious. You would probably want to be here because you want to do damage instantly. Now, let's take the equivalence of, just let's break it down. Let's say this leader will guarantee a rally, right? One, you're losing, essentially you're doubling the firepower. So for all intents and purposes, right? Oh, not break, darn it, wrong one. For all intents and purposes, you've got 4 squads in that location with the 9-2 leader. Right? So they're firing 12 firepower across the street. If he's not there, you have 6 firepower. Let's say we take let's say we say, okay, well, the priority is getting this one guy up right here. We rally this one unit and we rally him. Let's say this says guaranteed rally, but it's not. So there's a chance he won't rally. We've just now reintroduced one squad into the fight, which again could affect the scenario, but just in terms of firepower wise, the amount of firepower this unit is bringing to bear, the 9-2 is bringing this guy back into the mix. And let's say there was only 1 unit there. That is far less efficient than him simply being here and letting, like, say, an 8-0 or a 6+1 kind come around here. Even if he's got a stack over here, maybe he's pulling this unit. Because this 8-0, the only thing he's preventing is a cower of one column, right? So if this was an 8 firepower, right? If this was an 8 firepower column, and if this 8-0 is over here, you say, well, I want that 8-0 there because I want to prevent the cowering, right? And obviously these are 5 morale units, so they're really low. Let's assume, if it's a Raider German. So all he's doing is preventing the cower of one column. Well, look at your IFT. Go from 8 to 6. How much firepower is that? That's only 2, right? That's only 2 firepower. Obviously, the higher up you go, the more firepower it will be between columns. But the Italians can typically pull an 8 firepower column depending on their setups. And so he could either bring 8 to bear here and he's only saving 3, or he can go over here and bring another unit back into the fray. There is our 2 firepower that we're losing if we cower, but we've just brought more firepower back into the game. So if this guy were to move, well, that actually doesn't do anything over here, but he might be able to do something somewhere else. And so it would behoove the 8-0 to come here and rally versus direct the 8-0 come rally, or maybe even the 8-1. The 8-1 would be even. But the 9-2 to come rally versus lead an attack, even an attack as small as 6 firepower, it would be a negative essentially gain from that, because he's giving up 2 squads of firepower up here to gain 1. Now, let's say there were 3 squads over here that were broken. Darn it. Now you have the situation where, okay, I'm only gaining 2, but if I come over here, I'll definitely gain 3. And especially if they're in this sort of situation. If I know I can get most of these guys back, and that's a pretty good deal, even with 5 morale. What do we need to rally these guys with 5 morale? I mean, that's garbage. All right, 5 plus 1 for the building, -2. So we need 8s. We need 3 8s. That's pretty good. So if we could bring these 3 guys, let's just say that's what happens. He could bring all 3 of these guys back in the fray. For this one attack, he's giving up 2 squads of worth of firepower based on his leadership modifier, but he's gaining 3 over here. Even if he only had 2, that would be a break-even account. So he could still induce a fire attack here, bring these guys online, and get those guys going. So 9-2 leaders rallying 1 unit by themselves instead of leading an attack is a loss situation, is a net loss of combat effectiveness for that particular unit. But if he's bringing 2 or more units, let's say 2.5 squads or whatever, he's most likely going to bring a lot more firepower back into the mix based on his ability, his -2 leadership. He could pull these guys right back in the fire. Let's say this is a weak attack, but next turn, now we have 8 firepower going up 2 columns. Now that's a 16. Now we're gaining more firepower in our basic attack of the scenario. So larger amounts of units, the 9 minus 2, let's say he's here. Let's say, okay, 3 guys broken. This attack is not bad, but the 6 plus 2 could still possibly damage them. But if I come over here, that's really going to put me ahead of the game, you know, because I'm getting more firepower, more guys back in the game, and I could crunch him. If this was one squad back there, the hell with him. I need to break this unit because this guy's not going to make an impact in the game. Now, 10 minus 3, step that up to 10 minus 3. The difference between, let's just go 10 minus 2. What is the difference between these two guys? Obviously morale, right? The leadership is exactly the same. What can we do with 10 minus 2s that 9 minus 2s might not want to do?
Be in the front line.
Be in the front line. Why is that?
Stack.
Stack. Right?
Death stack.
Ass kicking. Why? Same leadership modifier. What's the difference? You know? Let's say we stack over here, -2 leader. You know, is this badass? That's not bad. You know, you got a decent leader there. But a 10 morale leader, you know, let's say you have a normal morale check, right? A normal morale check. What are the odds of the 9 minus 2 breaking? Or pinning. Pinning, most important. Let's just go by pinning. Let's say we need that -2 leadership modifier or his movement capabilities or whatever, right? Now, 10 morale, he needs to roll a 10 for a pin, 11 or 12. So he eliminates 4 out of the 36. That's like a 8. It's like almost a 10% chance less of pinning. Now, morale checks of breaking, he has to fail his morale check. So that means the 10 minus 2 has to roll an 11, 9 minus 2 has to roll 10. Well, right then and there, the 10 minus 2 is going to make twice as many morale checks as the 9 minus 2 leader. Twice as many. Being pinned, he's only slightly better about passing the pin. But in passing a normal morale check, you know, by him just staying alive, he needs to roll an 11 or 12, which is only 3 chances in 36. Now, the 9 minus 2 is 6 chances in 36. So the 10 minus 2 is going to be your front loader. 10 minus 3, you're just bumping it up the next notch, right? This guy, if he's not in the front line, you're losing the game. I don't care if you've got 5 guys broken behind him and he has 1 squad right here. This guy is going to reduce a shot right here. This guy fires on this location with 1 squad. Let's say we got all these guys back here broken. Right? All those guys are broken. And let's just say he's got 1 squad. He's got a stack of guys right here. I don't care what they are. 6 firepower into a wooden building. A lot of terrains will be some stone based on starter kits. There's a lot of stone starter kit, but there's some wooden, especially in this scenario. Straight up shot, not moving. The Italians are not moving. That's a 6 minus 1 with him hunkering down. So essentially, he's increasing the firepower of any attack into a wooden building by the next column. So that's essentially an 8 even. That's pretty mean. Dealing with 6 morale units, these guys are going to be vaporized. Turn 1, all these guys break. Turn 2, let's say this guy assault moves back here. Or just let's say he moves back here. Boom. What's that give us? Well, he's moving. Non-assault movement, -1. +2 building. It's a net +1. We've got, you know, Lord of the Battlefield here. That's going to be a 6 minus 2 shot there. In a wooden building. If he's moving in a stone building, that's going to be a 6 minus 1. In a stone building. That's the power of this 10 minus 3. 6 minus 1 in the best terrain in the game. Okay, 9 minus 2 will make that even. Not bad, but the -1 is the big kicker. Because that'll change your 7s, which you're going to roll, down to a 6. And that'll make it a 1 morale check versus a normal morale check. And sometimes, especially if you're dealing with elite units, you know, if you're stacking against 4.68s or 7.47 Americans or what have you, you need 1 morale checks on those guys all day long. Normal morale checks, they're not bad with. They'll break. But if you can get that 1 morale check on the 8 morale units, that brings them down a notch and brings them to your level most of the time. And that makes sense because you're practically doubling and tripling the firepower, effective firepower. of that unit. 8 minus 1. 8 minus 1. If let's say you have an 8 minus 1 or even 9 minus 1 there, right? You broke them. Do you fire on here or do you move your leader to rally? What do you think? Do you fire on here or do you move your leader to rally? There's no right answer.
I'd go rally
Why would you go rally?
because the -1, I don't think it's going to change that attack very much, and I'd rather get 1 or 2 units back in the game.
Right. How much will it change this attack by? 1 column.
Yep.
Right? So that goes from 8 to 12. You're essentially adding 4 firepower to the mix. Not much. If you go over here and rally these units, first of all, you're definitely going to rally the guy on top. And the guy on bottom will need a 6. Let's say that he's not DM'd. Let's say these guys will rally. They're Americans. I mean, Americans, how much firepower are you going to add into the mix when you bring these guys on board? 12. Yeah, you go
12.
from adding 4 now to adding 12 in the next rally phase.
Heck, and you throw the leader in there, it's 16.
That's right. Exactly. So exactly, because you're exactly right. So you're actually adding more. You're adding the 4 that you lost there, and you're transitioning it somewhere else, and you're making it even far superior. You know, obviously, you know, this situation could change. I'm just saying that you can. Do you want to rally these units now to use them in the future? And you always have to think about the future, not like right now. It's like they're broken now. Yeah, I can't rally them. You know, kidding. I have to fire on units and stuff like that. But if it's my movement phase, even if they're back here, you know, let's say I move here and, you know, it's my turn and the Italians have, you know, some guys down here. It's, again, situational. You can't shoot everybody. He's going to try to attack here. No big deal. He's got decent capabilities of defending fire, defensive first fire over here. But if this guy pulls these guys back into the fray, now we've just really increased our strength. You know, this guy's pretty much stuck. He's not going to be able to do anything. Just like you said, you have now had the -1 leader on the stronger stack. Now, if there was 1 squad there, it would still behoove you to probably rally that unit, simply because you've only lost 4 firepower from this attack, but you're gaining 6 over here. So how much firepower are you bringing to the battle? That's the concept you have here. The leaders bring more firepower to the battle depending on the strength of the leader. They do it in different ways. The 8-1s do it primarily in attacks, but they're better suited to rally units because they're more vulnerable in the front lines. Even in stone buildings, they only have an 8 morale. Just think of it as like an elite squad. I mean, you guys break elite squads all day long. Those 5-4-8s break like crazy in S2 War of the Rats. Those guys break all day. You know, with 4-5-8s in S6. You know, Release from the East. Those guys break all day. Same thing 8-1. He's the same guy, right? But who's going to bring those 4-5-8s back? Who's going to bring those 5-4-8s, the Fallschirmjägers, back in the fray so you can drop some more smoke? This guy, he's going to do the job. 9-1 is going to be moving him around and taking some shots, you know, taking some risks because he has setting up a little fire base. You know, okay, nobody's getting across here, and I'm staying there because I got 9 morale. I can add my leadership modifier to morale checks, essentially making this unit, for all intents and purposes, an 8 morale unit. You know, you add the modifier to the firepower, and you kind of do the same thing with the morale factor. Now, 10-3. As MGT was pointing out, you're adding 3 to the morale factor. Now you got 2 10 morale units in that hex, for all intents and purposes. The first one passes, everybody else has 10 morale in that hex. It's hard to break that stack. Most of the time, I just avoid this guy. I mean, you smoke the shit out of him, or avoid him, or drive a tank in his hex, and hopefully he won't blow up your tank. And most likely, as not sure, as Craig found out, the 10-3 vanquished the tank in the back quite easily. So even with 1 squad, he's going to destroy tanks. So you can't even send a tank in his hex. He's going to laugh at you. He says, "What the hell are you doing here? You know, I didn't order takeout, you know, and just take your Jack Panzer 6 out. You know, it's gone." What is the close combat value of this unit? You have 1 squad and 1 leader. What is the close combat value of that unit versus tanks? Normal tanks.
7.
So you have how much for the squad?
5.
5.
5 for the squad. And then
2
you
for the leader.
well, you've got 1 for the leader because he's single man counter. You can add
Oh.
the single man counter strength to him. So he's a base close combat value of 6. Okay. Now you attack something in close combat. No ambush, no nothing. Okay. What do you need to get an effect? A 9.
9.
You're going to get an effect 83% of the time. 83% of the time, this guy's taking out any armor fighting vehicle in the game. He's either going to immobilize it on the 9, or he will destroy it on an 8 or less. 1 unit, 1 squad, 9 or less, and your tank's immobilized. Extremely, extremely powerful. You don't want to be anywhere within movement range of this guy. And let's just add fuel to the fire. Let's say you're driving towards him, right? And this is a bazooka, in case you guys don't know what that is. It's the worst bazooka, too. Bazooka 43. Flip that thing. A tank is moving. Let's just say this tank is moving. I'm gonna say I'm gonna really piss this 10-3 off, and we're gonna drive right here. I'm gonna get my point blank shot. I'm gonna look close to him because I want to make sure that he runs out in the open, and I'm going to stop here, and then I miss because I've got 2 machine gun factors, and let's say the leader takes a shot. Well, first of all, let's go over here, so we could avoid an obvious modifier. Let's say we're gonna shoot at him, and that's all the farther we could have moved. So we stopped and we shoot at this guy. Nothing happens. Now he fires that bazooka back. What does he need to hit that vehicle in the prep fire phase of the American player turn?
$11.
Okay. Look at the AFV. He's got a size modifier, so it's a +1 size modifier, right?
Right.
You always got to look at the AFV. So a little
Right.
small target, so it's 1 more worse to hit. So we're looking at a base 7 and leadership modifier, like you said, 3. So it's a 10. He needs a 10 to hit that vehicle, right? He needs a 9 over here, and that's 6.3 is really fudged up. Doesn't like moving multiple stacks of stacks. It will need a 9 to hit you here. And let's go 1 more hex away. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's very far range for bazooka. So base 3, he will need a 6 to hit you here. So it really drops off. But a 2 hex range, he will need a 10 to hit you. Because of the -3 modifier. His offensive capability is off the chart. If you're moving, let's say you were moving and you ended up right there, and he saw you for 5 movement points in continuous lines of sight, so we have to ignore all the other modifiers. That obviously only adds 2 more, so that would need an 8 to hit you. A small moving vehicle will be hit by this bazooka with this -3 leader with an 8. And then we destroy him on, we damage him on a 9, immobilizing him on a 9 because the kill is 13. So 8 to hit, 9 to effect. 8 -1 can't quite do that, but he still can modify the attack somewhat. 10 -3 is an offensive powerhouse. Offensive powerhouse. He could take anybody down. So play your guys here aggressively. Don't take -2 shots that you can't afford to take. You're not be taking 8 -2 shots. Right? You're not taking 8 -1 shots. Drop your smoke. Burn 3 units. Right? Let's say, how much firepower does this guy add to his attack? 3 columns, right? 3 columns of firepower. Let's say it takes 2 squads that we wanted to fire. We want to fire these 2 squads. They say, shit, I need to get my 10-3 up there. He's back here, and I need to move these units. I need to make sure he crosses open ground. He needs to get to F4. I got 2 units. I got a 12 plus 2 shot at this LMG. That's a good shot. That is a damn good shot, right? Do I fire here? Hell no. Hell to the no. First of all, if you fire there at 12 firepower plus 2, what can happen? You can miss. Next, you can get a result, and he could pass his morale check. So end result is 0. So you might have I'll give you a 35% chance of actually breaking that unit. Not pinning him, but breaking. If he pins, he's still going to be this 10 minus 3 with these 2 squads is still taking a -2 shot here from any pinned unit in range. Okay? So what's our better option? If we drop smoke there, right? If we attempt to drop smoke here from this unit, fail. That's 2. Let's say we go 4. And why would I go back here 4? Because I'm moving this guy here 2, and he's dropping smoke there for 4. Or here, whichever. You probably here would be better because this guy has a clear LOS. So why did I move this guy back over here? Because I don't want 2 squads stacked here so he could then fire a group on me. So I'm going 2. That fails. I'm going back. Because I know this guy's coming and dropping smoke. I'm not failing 2 smoke rolls most of the time. Unless I roll it right now. There you go. I failed the first one. And he actually got stuck. The second guy gets smoked. All right? The smoke is what wins the game here. Because now this guy, he's not taking any shot, -2 shots in the open. He drops in here, +2, -1 assault. That's a +1. 10 morale leader, +1. Even if he fires all these guys. 3, 6, 9, 12. That's 5, 15, 16 sharp. 16 +1. What's he going to roll? A 7? Okay, 1 morale check. Does the 10 minus 3 leader give a shit about a 1 morale check? Most of the time, no. He's going to pass that a lot of the times. And then we simply move to our destination. And then vaporize anybody. What is our firepower in the advanced fire phase here? Including over here. More importantly, let's look. Forget this guy over here. Forget the 10 minus 3. Since we gave up our 12 firepower, right? We gave it up. I'm not firing. I'm throwing smoke. What is the firepower of both of these units? Let's say we wanted to fire on the exact same target. Okay. What's the firepower now in the advanced fire phase after 2 smoke attempts from those units?
An 8.
It's an 8. What did we lose? What did we lose? We lost 4 firepower. We went from a 12 to an 8. 8 plus 2, 12 plus 2. Guess what? A 6 gets me a morale check, and a 7 gives me a morale check on the 12. Slightly different percentages. It's about 16% difference. It's a 1 in 6 chance better. But what did we try to get? Even if we failed on the smoke attempts, the potential of getting this monster here, we're giving up 4 firepower to gain an 8 minus 3 shot somewhere. Is that a good exchange? It's a pretty good exchange, especially since he could fire on the 9 minus 2 leader with an 8 firepower, essentially even on that shot. An 8 even, that's garbage. That's a dice bot. There it is. 6 or 7 on the 8 throws a 1 morale check. This leader can easily get pinned. Maybe not broken, but he could probably most likely get pinned on that 1 morale check. What does that mean for the units under him? No -2. This leader's just gone. These guys will be broken. At this point, we can't break the leader, but the units, if he pins, the units are gone. And so if these units break, even though the leader gets pinned, right? We pin this guy. Where's the pin? Pin. Right? Leader's not broken. He's still viable. But what's the offensive capability of this stack? It doesn't exist. And they have to route somewhere. And the leader can't go with him to go rally them later if he chose to. So the leader's stuck there. These guys route away. Their firepower is minimized. Yes, these guys could advance in. Well, actually, it's not even their turn. It's our turn. So that he doesn't even have any offensive capability for next turn when he gets pinned and those guys break. He's not in a stack with any units. So they have shit firepower with a 9-2 sitting on him. Where is that time -3? P4. No value in P4 by himself. Same thing. Same thing here. Exactly same thing. No value in E7 by himself. You have to move to have value. And these guys don't have assault fire, which means your offensive capabilities are pretty much in your turn or your defensive fire phase. But again, know your units. They're giving up 4 firepower, but we need 2 smokes right here. Hell, for that matter, if the first smoke works, the second, we could plop a second smoke here to increase this guy's promise of getting to his destination. How's he going to get there? Why? Mobility, leadership, morale, and leadership gets him to that location. And 8-1 doesn't get there as often with the exact same smoke. But the 10-3 will get there, and the 10-3 will have an impact immediately. Therefore, this guy back here, taking little pot shots, doesn't win you the game. This guy needs to be aggressive. Use your leaders. Your leaders are not just, again, linear progression. Their value is almost like an exponential graph. Think of 6 1s and 7 0s in the bottom, and then as you go over, it kind of teeters. You can get 8 0s, 8 1s, 9 1s goes up a little bit, 9 2s kicks up like about a factor of 3 or 4, and 10 2s, you're up a factor of 10, and then 10 3, you're about 25. So that's you want a logarithmic scale on the value of leaders is what you're looking at. As long as you understand that the value of the leaders go up a logarithmic strength scale, then you'll be fine. Take those 10 3s and go kick someone's ass. Go kick his ass. He's scared the hell out of him. Everybody's scared of 10 3s. You should be scared of a 10 3. And you better be taking every single -1 shot you can take against him, hoping that he's going to roll a 10 to break. Because once he breaks, you have to take advantage of it. And when he breaks, what are you going to do? You're going to try and send as much possible shit over him to try and break him again to get that guy out of the game. Once that guy is out of the game, it's incredible. It's incredible. Remember, -3 modifier for most chances. This guy is essentially worth 8 to 12 firepower. This unit is an 8 to 12 firepower squad, depending on what setup you have. This guy's 6, extremely strong. This guy's 12. That's how you have to view him. He adds that much offensive capability to him. 8-1, he adds 4 or 6 firepower. His morale's a little lower. So he's essentially equivalent to a little bit less than a squad to a squad. This guy is almost twice the strength of a squad. 8-1's about the same as squad. This guy's definitely twice the strength. And that's just in firepower. You're not even talking morale. That's just the leadership modifier. So, again, approach your game. I know everyone knows the 10-3 leader. Everyone knows the 10-2 leader. But know what you can do with him. Know that if you do break, remember, what is my philosophy? Who cares if you break? You know you're going to break. Anticipate these guys breaking and DMing. But you know you're 10-3. You don't care. You just laugh it off. Okay, I need 8. So what? I'm getting one of them back. Right? I'm getting one of them back. Let's say you only get one back, and he charges you with a shitload of guys. He just charges. One at a time. Boom. What are you going to do? Point blank. 12 minus 2 in that hex. Subsequent first fire. 6 minus 2 in that hex. Am I final protective firing with this unit? If he throws more and more guys in there.
Yeah, probably.
I'm final protective firing until the cows come home. I essentially have to roll 9s and less. I can do that. Sure, you could roll 10. 10, 11, 12. That's a 1 in 6 chance. You have a 5 in 6 chance of vaporizing everybody next to you as they move. Final protective fire. Final protective fire. Final protective fire. Boom, 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 boom. Because if he advance fires on you, he might get lucky. Do you want to risk final protective fire? Some guys don't. But imagine the impact of you final protective firing on these units and blasting those guys and continually breaking their units. What kind of impact will that have on your opponent's psyche during the game? I mean, he's not going to have enough squads to throw at him, to be honest with you. Even in stone buildings, it's going to be 6 even, 6 even, 6 even. I need to roll 9s. There's a 6. There's the next bastard. There's the next bastard. Okay, now I'm really dead. But 3 of his guys are gone. The 12 is going to happen. Eventually, if somebody's going to roll 12 somewhere, it's dice spot. But no, just kidding. But that's just 1 in 6 chance. And we at least got 3 of them out. And these are really good results. Super good results. Guys are failing ELR and breaking on those results. Do you want to take them ad infinitum? No, you don't need to. That's the beauty of it. Once you reduce his number of forces to something manageable, let's say you break 3 or 4 squads and he's got 2 squads available and they move in there. Do you need to take another final protective fire shot? The answer is no. Why? I don't need to fire any more guys. I know he's not going to throw anybody in there. Let's see there's 467s. Let's see there's Germans. I've got Germans in there, you know, the Wehrmacht. And he's got some badasses. 467s. Let's go. Boom. Okay. I've broken a couple. No, not that. I've broken a couple of his guys. Let's say 2 or 3 squads I've broken. And he's got 2 guys that managed to make it in there. And he moves like another unit in there or something like that. 1 unit was in there and he moves another unit in there. Do I want to final protective fire against that other unit? And that's like his last unit he's going to move. He's going to get an 8+2 shot on me. Do I want to final protective fire against him? Probably not. Because it's an 8+2 shot. What's an 8+2 going to do against a 10-3 leader? Right? At that point, use your morale and your terrain to your benefit. 8+2, he's going to roll 7 pin task check. His average roll will generate a pin task check from 2 squads. Let's say 3 squads are around him. 12+2. Does that change the equation? Not much. It changes the pin task check to a normal morale check. Are we afraid of a normal morale check from that 10-3 leader? You shouldn't be. You damn well shouldn't be. You laugh at that. And we engages you in close combat. What are the odds? Let's say the broken unit, for whatever reason, just routes or dies or runs away. What are the odds here for the Germans? First of all, it's ambush. Who's going to win that? The American's going to win it. He's got a -3 dice roll straight off the top. Germans, Americans. Ambush. Okay. So we get to attack first. We can choose whatever we want. The choice will be yours. But you can go 1 to 2. 1 to 2 -3 is a 7 for a casualty reduction. Or you can go 3 to 2 against 1 squad. And that's a 9 for casualty reduction. I might go against do the 7. But his attack back with 3 units, mind you, is 12 to 7. That's not 2 to 1. That's barely 3 to 2. He needs a 6 for CR. And he's probably going to be ambushed. So he's probably going to need a 5 for CR. Simply because you're -3 modifier. You can afford well, he's probably not going to throw more than 3 units in there. For ASK, he can't, but in ASL, he could. But even if 2 units get in there, he's pretty much throwing those guys away. He's looking for a super low roll, and then these guys will be vaporized. He has to avoid the ambush first, right? So you can't even jump this guy in close combat because most of the time he's going to ambush you. And then it'll be in this case, it's a 1 to 2 -4. So he'll need a 7 for a kill and 8 for a casualty reduction. And when he casually reduces one of your units, now the Germans are at 1 to 2 next round. And you're at a 1 to 1 -3. Can he kill you? Absolutely. That's about one of the best chances to kill a 10-3 leader. Is to be able to jump in close combat, and hopefully you don't get ambushed. Concealed unit, obviously, but that's something else. We're just going to go for general principles right now. He's going to ambush you most of the time, and he's going to wallop you. Remember, the 10-3 in close combat, very similarly to close combat value versus a vehicle, that will shift the chart 3. If you're normally a 1 to 1, it now becomes a 3 to 1. If you had an equivalent squad, let's say it was like a 10-3, Axis minor ally against this guy right here. So it will essentially just shifts the chart, shifts the odds ratios by a factor of 3. Very, very powerful. So in close combat, this guy's going to vaporize you. You do have a chance of killing him, though. And that, remember a couple weeks ago we were discussing in that one snow scenario where the Russians got to get off, where I made a mention of the 9-2 jumping into close combat. Yes, the 9-2 can kill those guys, but you're giving him a chance to roll like a 4 or a 5 or a 3 or some bullshit roll like that, right? He might be able to kill that leader. And the leader's value in that particular scenario is more about maintaining your troops, because he can rally them fast to get them off, and the offensive capability he has. You don't care if your other guys get locked in close combat. They'll eventually kill each other off for the most part. It's essentially even. But risking those leaders, any leader in close combat, is extremely dangerous. 8-1's not too bad, because the little -1 ups the chart a little bit. Not too bad, but you're risking a leader. Even 7-0s. I don't even want 7-0s in close combat, because the leader's value far exceeds what he's going to give you in close combat. His mobility, his rallying capability, his ability to, just direct units not to cower, even if he's a 7-0. Direct them not to cower. All those three facets far outweigh the simple 1 firepower he gives you. Even if it boosts the odds for him to 1-2 and you're 1-1. You're rolling a 5, he's rolling a 4. It's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, pretty much for those.
So Stu, I see what you're saying. We're sort of talking a linear offensive from the right to the left, advancing. But the problem is, in this one, you're probably going to have 2 tanks behind you every time that 10-3 advances. So you're going to have to take at least a 2-down-2 shot every time it advances. And then if it ever cowers or has to retreat, it's going to get croaked because all these tanks are behind it.
Is the 10-3 is the 10-3 routing if he's got broken units with him?
Well, if a tank moves right next to him, yes.
Well, yeah, if he moves next to him, but what I'm saying is those units are broken. Yeah, if you have some guys around him, but that's where you have the other units supporting him. Most likely, he'll have a bazooka. This one, you have the AT gun, and you have other units moving as well. Plus, if the 10-3 is drawing that much firepower, you want to make sure, you want to minimize the -2 shots. That's why you forego prep firing units, and instead you put them in positions. Either you move those units to draw the fire, the 2-2. Again, if I'm moving a unit into a position to get this 10-3 ready to come across the street or whatever, and I have to have smoke, let's say right here, and I got to go 2 and I place smoke here, and for whatever reason I want to go 1-2 and place smoke. If I have to take a 2-2 shot, and let's say I get broken here, let's say it kind of failed, I get no smoke, so I'm not sending my 10-3 leader out because you still got 2 or 3 guys that can fire me -3. I'm simply moving this guy back, and he's going to rally him next turn, regardless. In the Italian rally phase, that DM'd squad is going to rally in the Italian player turn. If he doesn't,
but you've taken up a turn and you haven't gained any more buildings, and I have to occupy every one of these stinking buildings in this game.
Well, in that case, then you have to take them. Then his squad's got 3 smoke. What I'm saying is you're going to have 2 or 3 units dropping smoke at a factor of 3. If you fail those 3 drops, I failed 2 right there. I'm getting 1 off, but you're not firing the units. You have to drop the smoke. The smoke is more important than the firepower. If you break a unit, so what? Like you said, you've got to move him. And if I'm assault moving here and dropping smoke, fail. Assault move here, drop smoke, fail. Assault move here, drop smoke, succeed. 10-3 goes over here, destroys this tank, and then advances. Or he might move behind him because the tank has to rotate, and therefore you're not necessarily in the open, and he's going to destroy him at that point, and he's further ahead.
But you don't really need to. Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
You don't really need to occupy any buildings in this one.
Right.
You just gotta kill the break the Italians.
Right. And the sooner you do that, the better. And that's where the key is. I think if you get distracted, but I just wanted to focus on, like I said, I just want to focus on the leaders. Because not only in your game, I mean, because your 10-3 kicked ass. I mean, he did what he needed to do. But I was just in a discussion with another friend of mine, and just talking overall leadership, because like I don't use my 9-2s very well. I squander. I honestly squander. I think I squander my 9-2s because first of all, I usually play nationalities that usually don't have them that often, and second, I usually don't create a killer stack. So my 9-2s are squandered. 90% of your players will stick your 9-2 into 12 or 16 firepower stack. That's effective. That's offensively effective. But I know for me that if that stack gets attacked, they're going to get vaporized. They're going to break, and then I lose everything in one. I hold everything in one basket. Well, thank you so much for joining us for another session of Tactical Tuesday. We'll catch you guys next time. And while in the interim, hopefully you'll learn a little something about how to use your leaders maybe a little more effectively, and maybe show with a little bit more success on the battlefield. Thanks for watching, and please leave any comments or suggestions or what have you. And definitely like the video, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and that way you'll get notified, more stuff will be seen, etc., etc. Thanks a lot, guys, and we'll see you next time.